Welcome to the Legacy Through Land podcast, where we're dedicated to empowering you on your journey to land ownership and management. I'm Tyler Markham, your host, and each week we'll dive deep into the world of land investing, management strategies, and the transformative experiences tied to owning your very own piece of dream dirt. With our expert guests, inspiring stories, and actionable advice, we're committed to helping you become a better land manager, hone your investing skills, and start building your family's legacy through land. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. We hope you'll enjoy.
All right. Still don't know what episode this is. Whatever episode it is, it is. So welcome to this episode of the Legacy Through Land podcast. Jumping right in, kind of giving you the updates of our team, what's going on weekly. I think that's probably the hardest thing for me to talk about weekly on the podcast because I don't remember. It is just a general push and a grind and trying to grow a business, grow a team. But currently, we have a lot of properties we're selling, working diligently at selling. A few of these are going to go to auction, and it's kind of a new process for us with some of the auctions. We're taking a big parcel we have in Meigs County, and we are bringing it to auction with 3 parcels. And it's actually interesting. The one of the parcels went under contract to sell like days after we decided to offer this in 3 parcels. So it's going to go 2 parcels there, and we've got another farm in Meigs County we're adding to this auction. We're going to have 3 total parcels, and then we've got an auction in Muskingum County that's more of a commercial piece, I would say, but it's 20-acre lots. They border public land, so it's going to be a really unique opportunity for somebody to have like house site, really nice executive style home site, bordering public land. So that's a really good one. That's going in May 28th. But other than that, we've actually put a couple more properties under contract, just generally working leads. I've been looking at properties, met a surveyor yesterday. I'm headed to Morgan County to meet one after this. So it's just general spring chaos here. The thing that I would say I'm not doing enough of, and maybe our guest today is doing better than I am at this, but I'm not doing enough of my spring prep on my hunting properties. I am just inundated with work dirt. And honestly, that kind of grinds my gears a little because getting into dirt, the whole point of doing dirt was so you can just spend time on dirt. And now I'm definitely spending time on dirt, but we're repositioning things and just trying to make sure we can still pay our employees. That's kind of been a thing they would like to continue to receive gainful employment. So we have to focus on selling some dirt. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at this week, and I'm really excited about today's guest. I got to know Britton through a mutual friend, Mr. Dave Miller, and Britton, like myself, is one of those West Virginia natives. Britton does not live in West Virginia anymore, but he has tons of stories and honestly still spends a lot of time in West Virginia. He's got some hunts that we are not going to have time to get to today, but the dude's a straight up killer, great person of faith. And we're going to talk about a journey that he has been on and is kind of still on with a piece of property he bought in Kentucky, where he now lives, was able to buy this property, make improvements to it, renovate the house, live in it, sell it for a great, great profit, take that and build his wife and himself a dream home. And we're going to dive into that story and unpack what I think is easily going to be one of the most belief-building stories I've done on here in a while. And if it's not for you, it was definitely for me. I am following in his footsteps in this journey as we speak in my own life. So let's jump right in. Welcome, Brittain Bradley. So Britton was kind enough to come on today, share some time with us. He's looking good. And if you're watching this, by the way, folks, Britton he used to offer the Jeff Gordon birthday party look-alike, services, but he doesn't offer that anymore. So,
yeah, unfortunately not.
Maybe that's my vibe I was getting, but Brent's a good looking dude. And then there's me on here. So if you're visually watching, just maybe go back to the audio only, but jumping right in, Britton, I appreciate you being on with us today. Welcome to the Legacy Through Land podcast.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
I am glad to have you. This dude has got a ton he could offer. We've talked. I'm going to hire him. I just haven't figured out my angle yet. I can't afford him either, but I'm going to hire him, and you guys will see why after we're done. But I want to jump right in, my man. Where does Brittain and the career, we don't have to start at birth, but start back to that home state that we have that mutual respect for. Tell me about West Virginia, and we're going to get to where you live now and how all that happened. Born and raised where?
Yeah, sure. So, grew up in Kanawha County, West Virginia, out kind of, relatively out in the country, I guess you could say, but close enough to town. Not to get into detail, but
everything's in the country in West Virginia.
Yeah,
other than Charleston.
That. Yeah, other than Charleston, right.
And
right.
Morgantown.
Yeah, I grew up about 30 minutes west of Charleston. So very fortunate, had a lot of woods to grow up in. You know, my parents had a nice private area, several acres, and, you know, I just had water, creeks, woods all to my disposal. And I'm very blessed and fortunate to have a grandfather and father and uncles that introduced me to the great outdoors and hunting and fishing and hiking and, you know, camping, everything, recreational, boating, you name it. You know, very, very fortunate to have parents that were influential on that side. So, but to your point,
seems like a trending theme, Britton. Everybody that I bring on that is my West Virginia dudes, it's like we all grew up in the woods.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And I know people probably obviously do that in other states, but I just feel like if you come to West Virginia, they call it wild and wonderful for
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You know, in today's world, it's just there's times are changing, you know, and we didn't have, you didn't, and I didn't, we didn't have, you know, phones and devices and everything under the sun. So what did we do? We went out and found our own entertainment. You know, if it was catching crawdads in a creek or, you know, just taking a hike, that's what we did. So.
Man, catching crawdads. I haven't taught my daughters this either, which I feel like literally should be on like the top cardinal sin lists. If you're from West Virginia, if you don't teach them how to catch crawdads, by 10, you got a problem.
Yeah.
And I got a problem. So we don't have any crawdads in this cul-de-sac here in Columbus. You know, we don't have any crawdads.
You find a creek.
We're working on fixing that, my man. We're working on that. So I know that you as well don't reside in West Virginia now, and I'm going to guess and assume, and I want to let you tell the story of what caused you to leave that great state. But before we leave that great state in your story, you killed a few big bucks in that state, I've heard.
I have been very, very fortunate, and I've harvested several nice deer within the state. I still spend a lot of time in West Virginia. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of permission pieces, a lot of farms, a lot of, you know, leases and public land that I've cut my teeth on. And I still spend a lot of time, you know, hunting West Virginia. Next week I'll be hunting turkey in West Virginia for several days. So,
let's go.
You know, we still got our camp up in Braxton County, and you know, it's just, I still home to me. Yeah, I'm right across the river. I do live in Kentucky now, which I live in Cannonsburg. I've lived there now, built a house there. We've been in it right at about 8 months now. 7-8 months, somewhere around that ballpark. But yeah, work, you know, Tyler, work, that's ultimately what shifted me to Kentucky. And traveling amongst different properties with the formerly company I worked for, and the company I now work for, it requires me to live within one of the states that I now manage. So that's why I'm there. And not really that's why, but, you know, Kentucky's grown on me. It's got everything that I enjoy, hunting and fishing, and you know, it's coined the bluegrass state for a reason. It's got, you know, beautiful farms and very, very pristine property. And my wife and I, we've kind of taken it as our own. We really enjoy Kentucky. Nothing against West Virginia and, you know, bordering states or whatever, but it's home to us now. You know, our kids are pretty much grown up in Kentucky now, and it's just the nature of the beast, I guess. As you grow older, you end up landing somewhere, and we've landed in Kentucky, and that's apt to change. You never know down the road, but as of right now, we call Kentucky home, and we love it. So,
yeah. Well, and I did the same thing. I mean, I'm sure you probably would have never said, I won't live in West Virginia. I don't think I would ever said that either, but yeah, career path, and just, I felt like opportunity was knocking. So we had to chase it. So let's back up here.
Sure.
Cause I'm curious. I have the fortune of knowing what Britton does professionally already. And I definitely want to cover that. If you guys continue to listen to my podcast, I doubt you'll find another one of these come on here. So we're just going to hold everybody in suspense.
Yeah.
And no, he hasn't been featured on Dirty Jobs. Okay. So it's not that. What did you used to do before what you do now? And we'll just segue into what you do now, but what did you do before?
Previously I've held a few different jobs. But
my man,
yeah, yeah. But I've been in this career now going on, 12 years now, 11, 12 years. I started out, I've been in the oil and gas industry. I was a landman for a couple years, working with lease acquisitions and title search, et cetera. Did that for a little while when the Marcellus Shale was a big boom. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but early on there was a big gas boom that kind of swept through West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, et cetera, kind of the Appalachian Basin. And so I did that for a little while. Worked with, my goodness, I've worked at Heiner's Bakery for a year. I was in the machine side of things, the maintenance side of things there. I was in the military for several years, held quite a few jobs there. But now, currently, I'm actually in the death care industry.
I was going to say, drum roll, everybody. What's your first guess?
Yeah. So never envisioned being in this industry a day of my life, Tyler. Obviously it was kind of one of those things that I was given an opportunity and kind of got a good understanding of the industry from a close friend that is still in the industry. Actually, I take that back, is no longer in the industry. He was in the industry for probably close to 25, 30 years. He got me introduced to it.
Okay.
And I started, Tyler, he just gave me an opportunity. He said, man, I guess he enjoyed conversation with me. And he thought that I would be great at it. Just simply because I have a gift to gab. I can talk. I enjoy talking to folks, and yeah. And
not that we're patting ourselves on the back. I mean, listen to him already. Hey, Heiner's Bakery, oil and gas, now mortuary. I mean, I thought me coming from legal video into real estate house flips and then selling dirt, I thought that was, gosh, that's wild. And you're like, I was at Heiner's Bakery for a minute, and then I went into astrology, and then and now mortuary.
Yeah, the thing about it is, you just got to find your niche and roll. I didn't finish college, Tyler. And I
didn't even go. So you got me beat. I didn't even go.
Yeah, I'm one of those individuals. I realized early on in college was not for me, and so I needed to find my niche and catch my stride,
me too.
and just make my way. And we all have to find our way in our path some way, shape, or form. And how it happens, we never know. It could be by stroke of luck. It could be by just conversation, and finally it comes to light, and you find your niche, and you roll with it. And that's kind of what happened here. Back up a little ways. Whenever I met my friend, we'll just utilize that for now. But this individual,
call him Fred.
Huh?
Call him Fred.
I don't think I have a problem. His name's Ashley. And yes, his name is Ashley. I could throw people off, but Ashley, great friend. He introduced me to the death care industry. And when I say the death care industry, it's because I got my start in a cemetery, what we call a cemeterian. And I actually started out from the ground floor up. I was what they call a family service advisor. And I actually just facilitated families in a pre-need situation or an at-need situation. When I say that, it's in the event somebody loses a loved one or previous to somebody losing a loved one, those decisions are made in advance. My goal and my job responsibility was to help families navigate those situations, kind of counsel them on how they can have things taken care of in advance. And I just grew within the industry. I ended up managing several properties, ended up in a regional management position.
And you mean like cemeteries? Like, I'm interested now. This is so interesting.
Yeah.
You mean cemeteries? Okay.
Yep. Managed cemeteries and all facets of the operations, from the grounds to the sales staff to the administration staff. Managed it all. And, I've been with a couple great companies, and I look back at my tenure in this industry, and been very blessed and fortunate to have some great mentors. And with that being said, those mentors, I've been able to apply a lot of what I've learned within that industry into life lessons. I'll admit it, it's brought me a lot closer to God and made me more appreciative of
It would have to.
Yeah. I mean, my goodness, you get a family walk in that's been married for, 50, 60 years and held hands, through life essentially. And all of them have a common denominator. All of them are close to God and relate in their religion and faith. And it really, really, really opens up your eyes. And it's really, really opened my eyes, the industry as a whole, to faith. But not only that, but, I've had a lot of good mentors throughout it that I still talk to this day, and have really close relationships with. And you could apply those skills, those life skills, not just from a business standpoint and management standpoint, but to your everyday walk with life. So I've been very blessed and fortunate to work for some great privately held companies and corporately held companies, and now I'm actually no longer really in the management side of things at cemeteries, Tyler, but now I'm working directly for a large corporation. It's called Matthews International. We're the largest distributor of bronze memorialization, granite memorialization, private estates, et cetera, based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Wow. So not affiliated with Matthews Archery at all.
No, unfortunately not.
Just,
yeah.
Wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Man. So tell me, if I'm a layperson, Britton, what do you do? Tell me if I have no idea about the industry, because until 10 minutes ago, I had very little idea about the industry. What do you do now? I know you said before we went online, you've graduated a little bit inside, but what do you do today?
So from just connections and contacts, I've been with Matthews International now for a year and a half, somewhere around that ballpark. Okay. And currently I manage 2 states, Ohio and Kentucky, and pretty much all the sales. I've got several hundred rooftops that I'm more or less account management. So we provide pretty much anything related to funeral homes and cemeteries. Everything they need to help provide to the families. Wow. So, yeah, memorialization predominantly. When I say that, that's going to be your bronze memorialization or your granite memorialization. So I handle all the sales and logistics and everything that falls to that facet of the industry. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yep. And Britton and I were talking before we actually jumped on here that it's just, this whole thing for me is this podcast, this journey that I'm on, this business I'm in. I mean, it all is centered around, like, I just feel closest to God in dirt. Like, I feel closest to God with land and being a hunter, all of these things. And we were talking about before we even went on that, you can apply so much of what you learn in the woods, or so much what you learn as an outdoorsman. You can apply to your career and your profession and what drives you. And it's just amazing to see how unique and neat. Britton, you started as a sales guy and look where it's led you,
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yep. Well, let me know if they have any gigs open. Like, I don't want to work like 40 hours, maybe like 10. And then I need like usually about 200 grand. But if there's anything that, you hear of that's part-time, they need a good sales guy, let me know. I'll jump in. I know a guy.
Yeah.
I can sell anything to anyone. So let me know if there's any openings and we'll talk.
I can do that.
Britton's telling me the same thing. How do you want me to work at Legacy? When are you hiring me? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess we're expanding to Kentucky after this, I think.
Well, you never know. Work your way down this way and might be able to.
Don't tempt me with a good time. Don't tempt me.
Yeah.
So before, I don't want to sidetrack too much here, but obviously if we just recap, you've had a journey personally and professionally that has led you personally and professionally to Kentucky. You feel like that's home now. You spend a lot of time in West Virginia still. Are you in Ohio at all with hunting or anything yet?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Where I'm right there in Cannonsburg, I can be in Ohio in 10 minutes and I can be in West Virginia in 10 minutes. So
let's go.
Okay. I spend a lot of time predominantly over there though. It's public. That's okay. I'm usually hunting public, Shawnee, that's just,
gotcha.
I've been very fortunate. A couple years ago, I killed nearly 170 off public over there that a little bit of short history with, but it's just, it's definitely still one of those states that I'll hunt the rest of my life because it's right there in my backyard. And I've got, I'm landing permission pieces right now as we speak. I've got several permission pieces in Cincinnati, around Columbus, and just trying to, land spots here and there.
Around Columbus. Wait, what?
Oh,
Don't you? Well, you got a house to stay at, you got a house to stay at. I hope my listeners keep hearing this ever common word. What kind of farms did you just say you got? Some
permission pieces.
Yeah, permission. Yeah. So you're not leasing them.
No,
you're not on National Hunting Lease Aggregate website.
No.
You're knocking on doors.
The only property I lease right now is just in West Virginia. I've got a couple tracts that I'm more or less managing now. And I've got members, and I just can't, I'm not going to give it up. But right. I will say, Tyler, 75% of the properties that I hunt are permission pieces. I just striking a conversation, and lo and behold, I end up being fortunate enough to gain access. And a lot of people get the misconception, I'm real fortunate. I look up to Lee Ellis and Drew Carroll of Seek One. I've been real fortunate. Lee and I have hunted together, and I look up to those guys because, they have a really found respect for permission hunting. And granted, they're a little younger than me, but I can still look up to them because they do it with respect. They do it with, most people, they could take advantage of some people, but they go out there and do it the right way. And I've kind of watched them in a sense, and I've developed my own habits. And I tell you, I just think it's almost crazy now, in a sense, to spend money on something that is right there at your disposal if you go about it the right way. And there's some, tips and techniques you can use to do that. That's a whole different rabbit hole, but you can get out there. I would encourage anybody, get out there and just strike up relationships and take care of those people that you do get permission with. And it's just, the direction I'm tending to go now. It's just permission property. So
cannot help but grin.
Yep.
It's literally, I don't drop my girls to school. I don't drop them one morning without having Onyx open on a drive and just looking at stuff and dropping pins and just
I cannot believe I just found out about Onyx being compatible to my truck.
Oh, see, now I just heard this. Don't get me excited. I drive a 2008. Don't be getting me excited. But I guess go ahead.
Yeah,
how does this work?
I don't know what all applications are out there, such as Onyx, like Spartan Forge or whatever, but I'm not trying to plug a sponsor here by any means, but I still use Onyx.
We're welcome to have Onyx sponsor the show.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. But I was driving up my road just the other day, and I don't know what happened. But, of course, I had my phone plugged in, and my screen popped up and it gave me the option to click Onyx right there off my application. So I click Onyx, and I'll be danged if the thing doesn't open up, and it's like the gates of heaven just struck me.
Like you can just touch pins like on your display.
Oh yeah, like it's got the property owner, the parcel, I'm going, what is? Nobody ever. They're not even. They should be marketing that from my perspective.
Oh my goodness! So let me make sure I understand. Can you actually drop a waypoint or like add them to a folder right off your?
I haven't attempted. Okay. I'm just from my perspective. To your point there previously, as you're driving and you see a big deer, you see property that's like, I'd like to go knock on that door. Usually, I'm pulling off the side of a road, opening the app, and trying to find it and get my map.
Wrecking people.
Yeah, and I'm like, now it's just like working your stereo. I look over and boom, I've got the landowner right there, and that's a game changer for me. And I could just pull off the side of the road and just, hey, John, how you doing? My name's Britton. Passing through the area, just saw your land here, and go from there.
So is this Apple CarPlay that you have? Is that what you're talking about? Or
it was just, I believe it was just synced to the Apple CarPlay. And I did not realize, it never gave me that option before. And it was just kind of an unannounced, it popped up and I thought, wait a second, it's never done this in the year I've owned this truck.
Yep. I heard this recently, someone else. I just didn't know what it was. I heard them saying, Onyx is in your car now. And I was like, I wanted to, now you're like second person saying that. Yep. I guess I'm getting a new vehicle. I have Apple CarPlay on my truck. So I have an aftermarket radio. So I got to check this out, but I've already written this down. We're going to bring you back on for the permission property program with Britton. How about that? Dude, let's go. This is awesome. This is so awesome. We're going to have to bring you back on about some other stuff here, but I want to jump around here. Tell me, and he did say humbly, he did not, I didn't exist in the space. So he did have to utilize our dear friends, Whitetail Properties, but Mr. Britton has apparently, and I'm going to use the slang words, flip some dirt. Mr. Britton has flipped some dirt. He's one of them land flippers.
Yep.
What does that mean, you big bad land flipper? What have you done? Let's learn.
Yeah. So there again, once we settled in Kentucky, this was several years ago. My wife and I, obviously, the very first house we bought, and I'm obviously looking for a permanent residence. I looked at, with my wife, what can we look at from not only from a permanent residence, but maybe an investment, right? And at the end of the day, let's be honest, land is an investment, right? Not only for yourself, but your future, potentially your kids, just the direction the world's going.
All of it.
The direction the world's going is land is just, it's always been something that I've always a goal I wanted to achieve. If you go through all the goals in life that I've set forth, one of the top goals on that list was to own my own farm.
Yeah,
per se. And I was very fortunate. I had the income. My wife, we had a good income, and found right at 80 acres out in Greenup, Kentucky.
Okay,
and actually 88 acres. Forgive me. In Greenup, Kentucky, and it wasn't even on the market at the time, but the realtor knew the family, and by the grace of God, we were able to work out a deal, and I secured that property. And
let's break this down. How'd you know the realtor? Tell me. If you're okay, Britton, if you're comfortable, let's share the soup to nuts, because I think this stuff is really empowering. And we had another guy on the show, Madison Raber, a couple of weeks ago. We went through one of his deals. I've gotten so many messages that are like, "Hey, bro, that was awesome." Like that's what, because sometimes this is intimidating to people. Sometimes they just don't know what they don't know, but you're saying a lot of key words here that could, dive into this, unpack a little bit. You knew a realtor. Sounds like you knew the realtor.
Well, no. Haley and I, we just landed on a realtor by chance,
Okay.
and I did a little bit of research, and she had a very good track record
Got it.
for the type of house we were looking for, and property in the area. So we kind of focused on a specific area. Obviously, we wanted to be in Eastern Kentucky.
Yep.
She had a good track record, and we had, my wife and I had in place kind of some parameters on what we wanted. We didn't want to be right in the city. I wanted a big yard. I wanted land. I wanted something like I grew up for my kids, because Sutton was just born, and we wanted it to have some opportunity as well. When I say opportunity, stuff that I can improve with the house, whether it be some remodeling to increase some sweat equity and value in the house, or the land itself. Where could I get the best bang for my buck? And
Yep.
that wasn't really in her portfolio per se. She was more residential, and but she knew exactly what we wanted, so she kind of went in and started looking. We looked in Rush, Kentucky. We looked in Catlettsburg, Canonsburg, Greenup, etc. And she said, "You know what? We were a couple months into it, and the property was listed previously. It expired. They couldn't. It was kind of in cahoots. The family, the kids, they could not come together on a good price point to sell it. And I think by the grace of God, Tyler, we just landed at the right time. It kind of fell into our lap, because she was able to get with that family and said, look, we've got some qualified buyers, and they are ready to buy right now. If we can come up to some agreement on price, we can make this deal happen. And Tyler, we worked with her, and when we pulled into the driveway, literally, I shouldn't say the driveway itself was, probably half a mile long, up, and right when we pulled up, you have that aha moment, like, okay, this is it.
So clearly know what you mean.
This is it, and I knew when I started pulling up that driveway, I told Haley, I said, no matter what, we've got to figure out a way to buy this property. I mean, it was that conversation we had in the car when we pulled up. It wasn't, this isn't it. We looked at each other like, this is it. We got to make it happen. And I didn't really even have to see the house personally, because I knew, just looking at the land, the timber, the plowable land, the tillable land, what we can work with there. Had a big barn, a utility barn, everything I could ask for. Large property behind it that I actually knew the owners. Not going to name drop, but they're a very prominent family within the Greenup area and own a lot. Thousands upon thousands of acres of land that I know personally. And I knew they didn't hunt, one, and two, they didn't let anybody hunt. So
that was those were totally unrelated to why Britton said we have to buy this piece. They just happened to be fringe benefits.
Yeah, right. That was a prerequisite. What's the stress? What's the hunting pressure around the property?
Yeah, well, this farm sucks, but everything else is good.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, let's be honest. If you don't know your neighbors and you're trying to manage whitetail or
you better
turkey,
get to know them.
You better get to know them.
Or you're going to know them one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew, and it was a several 100-acre piece behind of us, and I knew that they didn't hunt, and they didn't allow really anybody to hunt. I had permission to hunt the property, some of their parcels. This one was off limits. So that told me that there was going to be some quality deer that I would be able to potentially manage. And
keep going. I'm on the edge of my seat. What happened?
Yeah, so
what happened, Britton?
So we made the deal, man. We worked it out. We
made the deal.
We sat in the living room and we made the deal. And we ended up within the first year. I started working immediately.
On the land or this new job, or you mean on the land?
No, the land.
Okay.
I mean, I started working it immediately. This was right at COVID too. Low interest rates.
Yep.
Just the market was booming, and we got in there right before it
exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I wish I would have mortgaged a piece of bubble gum back then. If I'd have just,
gosh,
all of us, goodness sakes, if I would have just mortgaged everything I could touch, I would have mortgaged everything I could have touched.
You'd be a multi-millionaire if you could have taken. Everybody had the wherewithal to take advantage of it, but we were very fortunate, and just timing, in life, timing's everything at the end of the day. And we were there at the right time, and the family settled on it, and we got in there, bought it, and immediately I get to work, what can I do to mold this property? One, for me, my wife, my children, my potentially growing family. And then, in addition, what can I do to mold the property to create a whitetail habitat and turkey habitat?
I like how he, in case his wife listens, I like how that was last.
Yeah. I mean, it is. You got to make the happy
gotta
wife,
have that alignment.
Yeah.
You got to have that alignment. Hey, I want to just camp out here for a second. I want you to make sure that you heard this, because this is what I heard. I've been taking notes. Number one, you took action. You took action. There's so many people that I think just sit on the sidelines. And Britton, we're both people of faith here, and I cringe when I hear people say, "Well, I'm just waiting on the Lord." And you want to be like, at least I want to be like, well, he actually told you to walk. He wasn't going to drag you to the finish line. He told you to walk. He told you to be faithful, and to be faithful means to take action and walk by faith. So you took action. And when you took action, you connected with a realtor. You did your research. You got a good realtor. That's what I wrote down. You got a good one, because what I heard, because I've worked with a lot of agents, and if an agent, Britton calls, I'm guessing maybe you found her just from your own research, but maybe you looked at a listing, or you looked at something that she did have or she didn't have anything. A decent realtor, Britton's a dead lead to them. A great realtor says, all right, I got a qualified buyer here. They've told me what they want. They've told me their criteria, and all the realtors are going to ask you what your criteria is. It's going to be up to them whether they actually go find it. This realtor, sounds like, went and found you what you're looking for. And
went above and beyond, because that property wasn't even listed. Yeah.
Expired. But buzzwords, everybody, expired listing. Well, that means it didn't sell. Yeah, which means let's go. This is juice right here. When we flipped houses, we loved expired listings. We would send letters to the expired listings as soon as they expired, just offering hey, not really sure where you're at, but maybe a cash offer would be something you're interested in. Anyways, I digress. You got an expired listing, and then the last thing that I wrote down is Britton said, by the grace of God, it just worked out. No. It was a kingdom connection. It worked out because you took action. You took the steps, you trusted, you walked by faith, and you were rewarded because of that. Am I right? This is 88 acres, I think you said in the beginning?
Correct.
Okay. So I want landing that where you're at now, that's a big deal, just to you went through a journey that might take a lifetime for somebody to actually get their own faith mustered up, to go take action, to go contact a realtor, to go tell them what they want. You did all this stuff to get to, we got dirt. We bought a farm.
Yep.
Carry on. I didn't want to derail, but
you're good. Yeah. I mean, and that was our, that was our first house. I mean, we pinched our pennies, and we knew what we wanted. One thing I want to stress is, to anybody buying, don't think that you can settle. If you've got a goal in mind, go for it. Because and you can make it work or make it happen if you have the right mindset. Don't just settle. Well, this is the one. We'll work through this one, and then, because I've seen a lot of people kind of get stuck. And I didn't want to get stuck in a house that wasn't really what I wanted. I had my steadfast goal that I wanted to land on, and that's what we did. And I'm very, very fortunate for a wife that's so supportive. You got to have someone in your corner that's willing to support those goals. And Haley, God love her. She's been in my corner since day one. I'm very blessed and fortunate for that. So it takes a team,
Sure
at
does.
the end of the day. So,
sure. And you said, Britton, this thing had 88 acres in a house, right?
That's right.
If we back up a minute, was the criteria that you gave the realtor, hey, we're just looking for some land and we want to build a house? Or did you guys have to settle on, hey, we've got land, but it has a house. We're going to have to now retrofit this to meet our needs? Or was that?
No, we wanted a house. We needed a house, but I wanted land. So the priority was the house, obviously. But
okay.
if we could find that together, man, it'd be a home run. The house itself, Tyler, it was built in 1978.
Okay,
older home, but
But not terrible. I mean, that's not 1940.
No. And let me tell you, this guy, they owned a chain of grocery stores from Moorhead to all the way to Catlettsburg. She was a professor at Moorhead, and the house was immaculate, well taken care of. The bones, I mean, he got in there. Very meticulous with the structural side of it. And I'm very fortunate to have worked on some flips with a close friend on some other houses that he taught me a lot about building. And, those are things I was able to identify. So the bones were good, but it just needed a good,
facelift.
uplifting, some overhauling and updating. And so I looked at that and thought, Haley, we can make the updates to what you want. Remodel the kitchen, the solid oak floors, beautiful pristine floors that needed maybe some new carpet in a couple rooms, bathrooms needed updated, et cetera. Just little things. And so I got to work, Tyler. We started with the kitchen, remodeling the kitchen, the bathrooms, and slowly started making progress. And then the land, I said, well, it's time to shift. I want to get the land to where I can start holding deer.
Yep.
So started doing some hinge cutting on, some portion of the land that I felt that wasn't going to be beneficial except for anything but, some bedding areas and some good habitat for the deer and turkey. Planted several acres of cowpeas and soybean and started rotating the crop. Planted a bunch of fruit trees. Water source, started, focusing on that end of it and really started to mold the property. Now, I will say this. The first year, Tyler, I didn't have a deer over 100 inches. Mm-hmm. I didn't hunt my property, but I think two times. Because the goal was to obviously I wanted to grow booners. That was just, and I couldn't do it until I had a comfortable environment for those deer to live on. And pressuring is your biggest enemy, for allowing that. So I told myself, I made a vow for the first couple of years, I'm not going to hunt it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give them a kind of a sanctuary. And if I can do that, these deer are going to discover that. I look at Dave Miller, you mentioned him earlier, what he did with his property. He's created a sanctuary. And I kind of just thought to myself, if I can emulate what he's doing here, it could be done. And he's killed booners, off his property. I look at any great, whitetail hunter out there, the Lekowskis, everybody, they that's what they do. At the end of the day, they build an environment that will hold big deer. So
tell me this, because I know we're having a ton of fun here. I'm going to have to short circuit you here. Unfortunately, Britton has real work stuff to do.
We can run over a little bit. I got a little bit of time.
Don't tease me with a good time. And by the way, I didn't even know Dave Miller hunted. That's insane. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
To quote the great Doug Hampton. All right. So, all right. Well, we're going to run over, but what I guess I would say the listener, we're all on the, the edge of our seat. You've bought the house, you've in the farm, you've renovated the house, you've made the house a home. You're now making the land a home to some whitetails. Tell us where this goes. And then I think you had a good exit. So I want to hear that. Yeah. Don't tease us and then leave us.
I mean, so I built this empire, that I've always wanted. My wife and I always wanted, or I shouldn't say my wife and I, that I always wanted. And
she supported.
Yeah. And she supported it. And I gave her the house to an extent that she wanted. But I got to the point, Tyler, that I thought with the market, my directions kind of started shifting. Mm-hmm. I saw the opportunity, and me being goal oriented, and I am money motivated. Who's not? I mean, it's right. Just. I mean, my wife and I have said, our final goal is we want to retire by the time we're 55, and and then the fun comes. Yep. And we can still have fun along the way. Don't get me wrong. And we're going to dabble in things as time progresses, and a farm hopefully is in the future, another farm. But quite frankly, Tyler, we stood to make a lot of money on that property with the investments, the sweat equity that I put into it, and the caliber of deer that I had now living on the property just after a few years, creating that habitat. So I told my wife, I said, honey, what can we do now with this property to reduce debt? One, we didn't have a lot of debt, but we wanted to reduce it. And financial freedom is, the final end result is what I want, financial freedom. Yep. And so after all that work and all that struggle to find what we wanted, we made the bold decision to sell it. And that path led us to Whitetail Properties.
Okay. And then you did sell. You did sell.
Oh yeah. We sold, and we made a large amount of money, at the end of the day. And that money was to now go into another home. Yep. Haley, God love her, she supported me through that 3-4 years there in Greenup and on the farm, and we listed it and sold it sight unseen from a couple from Texas. That's what they wanted, and they knew it. They came up, bought it. We made a good profit and took that money and that equity, and my wife wanted a startup turnkey ready home to meet her needs. I said, okay, now it's your turn. So, and with it was joint. I shouldn't say it was just her, but she had things that she wanted, and she was there for me. What I wanted early on. Now, I thought, well, heck, it's my turn to return the favor in a sense, and we took that cash and put it into a new house and built, in an area that is now flourishing. And I looked at that too. When we started that process is. Again, with the right mindset is, if we do build here, is there an opportunity to make money? Mm-hmm. That's my.
And how far do you live away from where that was? Do you live in, where did you say now, Cannonsburg?
So now we're in Cannonsburg.
How far is that from Greenup? Or where you were last?
Probably 25 minutes, 30 minutes.
Okay.
It's not far at all.
This was a big move.
Yeah. It got her, she works at St. Mary's. And so it got us closer to West Virginia. So it made her travel to work a lot easier. And, we bought the property. It's kind of it's a beautiful setup. It's spaced out. It's not like we're, our neighbors, they're right there. But at the same time, we got good size lots. We're talking several acre lots. So we all got space, and believe it or not, I can hunt up there. There's plenty of deer running around, not there's giants or anything, but if I wanted to take my son out and shoot a doe, I can do it. I still have that availability.
Well, and with the arsenal of permission farms, you're kind of like me.
There you go.
And it's Britton, you have no idea how intimately I am following in these footsteps, because I am basically the same path, other than we're going to sell a farm that we live at to build. I am currently going to honor my wife with a home, no matter what. That's the deal. And I have promised her, and all the house flips we've done and all the retrofitting we've done along our journey, that we will not retrofit the next house. We will build one. So doing the exact same thing, man. We're kind of doing this a little bit different, where we're looking for the land that is for us. We're looking for our forever home land. And I'm writing letters and sending out things for me, like for me. And it's hard when I buy and sell land for people to not think, oh, it's just some land play for him. I've just detailed the letters personally, put my own family's picture in there, my own cell phone number. Like, this is me, looking specifically in these areas. So kind of doing the same thing. We're looking for what that next season is that you guys have accomplished. So this is dream building for me to hear. I love it.
Yep. It's been a journey. I never envisioned this is how it unfold, but that's the way that the world works. And we've been very, very fortunate and blessed. The path that's kind of
let's recap this. Let's recap this, and we will have to bring you back on. I want to talk permission farms and stuff with you.
Absolutely.
Let's recap this for a listener. I have so many takeaways from this story, but for me, I want to ask some questions that I could assume I know the answers to, but I want to give you the space to answer. If you hadn't have bought the farm, if you hadn't have taken the risk, called the realtor, looked for your specific criteria, had the right realtor find you the right farm that was expired, negotiated diligently, prayed to God, sought after that, put sweat equity, blood, sweat, and tears into a property, lived there. And in some cases, some might say in this journey, settled on the house. It's one thing to buy a farm, but maybe you settled on the house that you got with it. You settled. And now look where you're at. Would you say that you could have done what you've done in your life? Would you say you could have done it without some of those chapters happening the way they did?
Absolutely not.
That's the takeaway I have is, dude, look at the journey that God's brought you guys on and taken you to, because you've been faithful, you've honored, you've been diligent. And it's led you to building a dream home, and it's led you to giving what I would say is one of our most fulfilling things as a husband to me, is being able to honor and treat your wife with what they want. And I have the same exact wife, dude, like unbelievably loyal, unbelievably patient with me, unbelievably supportive of all my craziness. And I want to honor her with that. I want to honor her. And so it seems like could you have done that, right?
It's our responsibility, as a husband or father, we got to provide. That's the world we live in, and she provides just as equally, but what do we bring to the table? At the end of the day, we're the man. We got to bring quite a bit to the table. And she puts up with a lot with the kids and, all the wild, crazy, 2 children we got. My goodness, it's they can pay a toll on them. You know what I mean? I'm there every step of the way, but they got a lot to worry about. So,
Britton's he's acting like he's absent, but I can promise you, I forgot to mention this earlier in the intro, but my kids have never even met his son. His name's Sutton, right?
That's right. Sutton Harold.
So we literally, when I met Britton at a shed hunting trip with Dave, he had Sutton with him, and Sutton is my favorite dude. He's me to a T. He's every wild outdoorsman boy. How old is Sutton now?
He's 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we're having a man's weekend, and Sutton's with us and doing all the big man stuff. He's wild as he's wild. And Britton would say, "Golly, Sutton." And now my whole family says, "Golly, Sutton." That's what we say all the time. And it's from Mr. Britton. But listen, I want to tease you guys just so when we bring him back on, you don't think there's only one thing we got to talk about. I got notes about a 9-year-old buck that Britton has a big journey with. He killed last year that I wanted to hear the story of the hunt. I've already written down, we're going to dive into permission farms next time he comes on. And I've also written down who he thinks of when you think of that, who has created a legacy through land, something that you could emulate and watch, and somebody that you can model after. And it's your dad. And
yeah.
that is so awesome, dude. So awesome to hear. And that's what, obviously I want my kids to say that. Like that's what we want to say. You want Sutton to say that about you when you're your dad's age, but
absolutely.
All right. So we're going to let this one go short. I'm going to let Britton get back to work and not lose his job, because it would be a lesser exciting, second podcast when he comes back on. But last thing, how can people get a hold of you? If people want to connect with you and they got questions, or they want to talk about, hey man, I'm looking at a piece in Kentucky and I just want to get your thoughts, or something like that, if you're willing.
How do they
get a hold of you?
I hate to say this. I mean, I'm engaged with social media and what have you, but I'm probably not nearly as engaged as most folks. But if I could be of some type of help in any way, shape, or form, by all means, just shoot me a message. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but you could shoot me a message and I could anybody that reaches out, I'm not going to ignore you. If I could be of some sort of help, if to your point, if you're new to the area and needing a plug to find somewhere to hunt, or you need some ground guidance for potentially property available in the Eastern Kentucky area, I might be able to help get you linked up with somebody that can help you. But granted, it's not my forte, but hey, I'm here to help in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I think you might be giving yourself less credit than it's worth, but just don't go hunt Shawnee. He did say that. He didn't say it, but
stay out of Shawnee.
He said there's currently no deer available.
Shawnee's not the same it used to be. Man, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Several years ago, you could find some pretty good areas, but my goodness, it's getting tougher
hunters,
and
man.
tough.
These dang hunters. It's these dang hunters, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Britton, I appreciate you being on. I want to have you back on. So let's plug another one here and plug another time in where we can really camp out and spend some time. I'm sure it goes without saying, your story is belief building. If it was even just for me, it's really belief building. I didn't know all those details. Didn't know that you didn't, that the farm that you sold wasn't where you live now. So this is just awesome to hear. It's been great getting to know you. I can't wait to get to know you more. And I've told Britton openly, and it'll be on here as well, that we're going to have to do some stuff together in Ohio and West Virginia and wherever else. We're going to have to get into some stuff. So maybe if we can beg Mr. Dave Miller, he'll come along as well. Who knows? He's usually too nice to say no and too busy to come. So
Yep. Busy man.
Yes. All right. Well, Britton, I appreciate you being on here. And for the listeners, thank you for listening. Get a hold of him on socials if you want to yell at Britton. And we will see you on next week's episode of the Legacy Through Land podcast. Peace.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. If you're finding value in this content, we'd love to hear from you. It'd mean a lot if you could share with us how this podcast is helping you on your journey, and let us know of any topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Be sure to connect with us on all social platforms at Legacy Acres Land Co. and subscribe to stay updated on when new episodes drop. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Legacy Through Land podcast, and we'll see you next week.